Hello parents, selamat datang kembali di channel Gia Ratri. Kali ini, Ibu Gia akan membacakan sebuah cerita yang sudah sangat melegenda dan hampir semua orang tahu ya kayaknya cerita ini. Yuk kita baca bareng-bareng. Pinocchio, illustrations by Ronnie Gazzola. Once upon a time, there was a carpenter called Geppetto who felt very lonely. He decided to make himself a wooden puppet which he would call Pinocchio. Geppetto carved the wood lovingly, but got a surprise when he finished. The puppet winked at him. The old carpenter realized very quickly that Pinocchio was a terrible rascal and talking cricket warned him too. This puppet is going to cause a lot of trouble, you will see. The wise little insect was right. As soon as Geppetto finished carving Pinocchio, the puppet got to his feet, laughed, then ran away. Geppetto chased him through the streets of the town and only caught up with the puppet when he'd been stopped by two policemen who were very angry about all the trouble he'd caused. "This puppet is a brat. You must do something about him," the policeman said to poor Geppetto, who promised to send Pinocchio to school like the other children. But Pinocchio didn't go to school the next day. He went to the marionette theater instead. There, he met Fire Eater, the puppet master who looked ferocious but had a heart of gold. Indeed, he gave Pinocchio 5 gold pieces. Very soon after, Pinocchio met two crafty characters, the cat and the fox, who were not quite so kind. They pretended to be his friends, then stole all his money. When Pinocchio told people what had happened, no one believed him because he often told terrible lies and each time his nose would grow. The fairy with turquoise hair was the only one to help him. She freed him and promised to turn him into a real boy if he learned to behave himself. Pinocchio returned home and promised to always do as he was told, but his nose began to grow again. He had told another lie. A few days later, the puppet met his friend Candlewick, an unruly boy who invited Pinocchio to climb aboard a carriage drawn by donkeys and full of children in festive spirits. "It will take us to the land of toys," Candlewick explained, "an amazing place where we can play all day." Pinocchio didn't need to be asked twice. He leapt onto the carriage with Candlewick and off they went. The land of toys was a veritable heaven of fun. Children could eat sweets all day. There was no school and they never had to study. But a few days into their time there, Pinocchio, Candlewick, and all the others began to turn into donkeys. What would become of them now? Poor Pinocchio, he was sent to work in a circus and had to run, dance, and leap around. It was dangerous work and he hurt his leg. The circus director flew into a terrible rage and hurled the injured donkey into the sea since he could no longer perform in the show. Meanwhile, what had become of Geppetto? He was also at the sea. After setting out to look for Pinocchio, he had had a terrible adventure. A whale had swallowed both him and his boat up. As for Pinocchio, as soon as he hit the water, he had turned back into a puppet. He was swimming happily towards the shore when a giant creature appeared behind him. In a twinkling, Pinocchio, too, ended up in the whale's stomach, alongside Geppetto. The puppet ran to embrace the old man who could hardly believe his eyes. They had finally found each other again. Pinocchio and Geppetto made their way hand in hand to the whale's mouth and leaped out into the sea. They swam for a long time and were almost out of breath when a tuna fish found them. It let them climb onto its back and carried them ashore so they could finally go home. From that day on, Pinocchio stopped telling lies. Maybe he had had one adventure, too many, or perhaps he didn't want to worry his father anymore. He loved him so much. One thing is certain, the fairy with turquoise hair noticed that Pinocchio had changed his ways and, with a flick of her magic wand, finally turned him into a real boy. Finished. Nah, demikian kisah dari Pinocchio. Kira-kira pesan moral apa yang bisa kita dapat dari cerita ini ya? Silahkan tulis komen di bawah. Terima kasih telah menyaksikan. Sampai jumpa.